The audit framework, and this is really important because what I hear often is that it is possible to take an app and build $1 million idea app in 30 minutes, in 1 hour, in 1 week. And I'm going to tell you something that's not all the way true. Getting from idea to something working, yes, that's easy. What's hard is that getting that idea when it's working, can it work for 100 users, 1,000 users, 1 million users? There's this invisible middle that no one is talking about. And what you need is a framework to make sure that when you go live, your app is ready to stand up. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The audit framework is looking at resilience, scalability, and control. Resilience says, well, what happens when something goes wrong? Does the app handle things gracefully, or does it crash? Does it lose work? Users will forgive an app sometimes if it just kind of, things happen. But if you start losing work, start losing data, they're going to abandon the app. Scalability. What happens when a lot of people, more people than I expected, start using the app simultaneously? Does the app come to a crawl? How does it scale? And then control. Control really is about, does it stay within the boundaries that we've set? Do we have guardrails, and are those guardrails solidified? And also, can we track and get visibility in what goes wrong? So are there logs? Are there controls? Are there audit trails? Something that says when something goes wrong, I can look at an area and know how to fix it. So we're going to deep dive into these three. So the first one is resilience. And this is one of those things where, things go wrong. Users do unexpected things. They may upload the wrong file. They may, fill out a form and then refresh the browser or something like that. What we want is an app that kind of anticipates these things and can handle them gracefully. So those are the type of things we're looking at when we talk about resilience. Now, in this app, when I did the audit, here's the first question. What happens when unplanned user actions? Okay, so for this one, the app catches mistakes before they cause problems. The wrong file type gets rejected politely. Form errors are flagged immediately, and if you accidentally close the browser, the draft is waiting for you when you come back. So we've addressed these issues. And these are questions I did not ask beforehand. I didn't go into it. We just kind of vibe coded this thing. And then we did the audit and said, okay, you know what? We did address these things in that process. But the second question, can the system recover from failures? Okay. You can see we got a partial grade here. If something fails, like uploading an image, the user can retry. But if the internet drops during other tasks, the app just shows a vague error with no try again button. Also, if the login expires while working, you lose where you are. You lose your data. So something happens with the API, sessions expires. We don't have any coverage to handle that. So these are things we're going to need to address before we go live. And there's probably something I need to address before I even make it to the prototype. The third question, do you have visibility in what's breaking? Okay, so you can see here we got limited visibility. So the API and database logs, we have some of that. Authorization logs, we have visibility into that. Client-side errors are console only. So right now, errors just go to the browser console, which only the developer can see. There's no system for alarming the team. And basically what we have is a product that really doesn't have enough tracking in it. So that's something I'm going to have to address in this particular project. The second category is scalability, and scalability is really looking at, we've all seen it when OpenAI, Anthropic, they released this new video model or image model, and everyone starts to use it, and they start to kind of like rate limit the usage of it, and it's because it's scaling far bigger than they are. And this is Notebook LM, so you got to ignore the two text there. But anyway, this is what we want to look at. So 1,000 users, 5,000 users, 50,000 users. What happens when this thing scales? Okay. Now, in my particular app, how does it handle 10 times user load? And this is a basic question, right? I test it with 10 people, and now I'm going to give it to 100. Does it scale? And as you can see, we've addressed this. List loads are small batches. Instead of trying everything at once, images are stored on a fast server designed for heavy traffic. Generating documents happens on the user's device, so older phones, laptops might struggle. That's something that I may have to address when we start thinking about how to develop the quote. We may move the quote to something else. But right now, it stands up, it's ready to go, but it's kind of like, hey, check mark, you can kind of move forward on this if you want, but we have a note there that says, hey, how we generate the document may be something we need to look at. Do you know your API and token costs? So here's one of those things where if you're dealing with media, any type of AI, video, image generation, agents that talk back and forth, that have context, you have a context window, you have the questions, you have system prompts. You need a way of tracking that API cost. You have to know what the cost is. In my case, there isn't much of that, so everything runs on a hosting platform. So right now, there's no surprise billing, but there is no dashboard for tracking usage. And so we do have images on the server, and the cost is so low to produce those images. But as this thing scale, we have to think about, well, I only have 10 products up there that I'm using for images, but what happens when I have 1,000 products, the images? I need to kind of think about that. But with such a small app right now, that's not an issue, but you can see that it could be an issue as you scale. And the final question about scale, have you tested concurrent users in action? Now, for this particular app, we don't have that many people. This app is really for a sales team, so we're talking, 40 to 50 people, but there are going to be multiple admins. And so one of the things that we have to look at is the saving of information. Okay, so if I have two admins working right now is that who's ever last, that's what data gets saved. So we need a way of protecting that last write wins. We need to fix that. So that's one of the things I'm going to address in this app. May not be such a bad thing because there are only two admins, but again, this is a scalability question. So you want to kind of think about how you lock down that aspect of it. Finally, let's talk about control. Can we trust it and fix it? With this type of app is not because it's an internal tool, but if you were to put something out in the real world where a lot of people have access to a database and API keys, you want to know that 1, you can trust it, 2, you can fix it. And even if you start talking about accepting payments where things get even more critical, asking a lot of questions in this area is, I think, the most important area to really ask questions, especially when you're going to put this thing out in the public. So in my case, the question number 7, the first question of control, can you explain what the system did and why? When you go through your logs, can you look at the system and says at 2 p.m. this happened, 3 p.m. this happened, 4 p.m. this happened? You really need to know what the current status of your app is. You want to know what users what they've done, and so you want that visibility. So you kind of have to really look at it. And in my case, where the gap is, it says no history in the law for catalog changes or document generation. So I need to know like what documents were generated, what quotes were generated. I can see that, but it's not logged. Okay. Catalog changes. If someone changes a price in the catalog, I would want to know that, because then I can go back and say, hey, the quotes are producing the wrong price. When did that happen and who changed it? So it's something that I need to address. But the fact of the matter is that this is something I didn't actually think about. And now that I see it, I can go back and address it. Okay. Can a user stop or undo an action? This is really looking at the admin side, right? So quote submission. Once you submit a quote, you start and there's no way to stop. I'm not sure if I'm going to address that or not, but I think what I want to do is do a save where people left off, and so they can like exit, do what they have to do, come back and pick up where they left off. So I think I will have kind of like a partial in progress quote type deal. Status changes. So, limited uses, catalog deletion. This is one of those. Soft deletion is saying that we can delete part of the catalog, but we won't delete it permanently. We'll kind of cache it. So that way, if something happens, you can kind of restore it, kind of like, how GitHub does with the version controls. Only this is kind of like, hey, we will soft delete, it will hold for 30 days, and then do a permanent delete. So we'll do something like that. And the final question is this: are data access and actions boundaries defined? Okay, now in this app, we have clear permission rules. Salespeople see only their own quotes, admins see everything else, random visitors see nothing. There are no backdoors, no commands to get through, no secrets stored. There's no issues with this. And so as I continue to build on it, I will continue to ask this question to make sure that this holds up. But these 9 questions, you can see here that the final assessment of this is that these 9 questions are saying that, hey, we've addressed a good portion of the resiliency. We've addressed a good portion of scalability, and we've mostly addressed control. So this one is ready for production. However, for me, I would take it like this. I would expand these questions out more. So these 9 questions would be, am I ready for prototype? To be perfectly honest with you, these 9 questions would be, am I ready for prototype? I would come back with another 18 questions after I've done my prototype and I've gotten feedback from all of my beta users, and I've addressed their issues and I've addressed some of the issues here. Then I will ask these questions again, plus an additional 18. I have an additional 18 questions that I would ask. That is going to take me ready for actual to go live. To be perfectly honest with you, I would say these 9 questions are saying, are you ready for prototyping? So this is what I would do. So take these 9 questions and say, before you go to prototype, make sure that you can pass this audit. Go to prototype, come back, ask 18 more questions. I can give you those 18 questions. Ask those 18 questions. Then you're ready for production. But it's one of those things that as we are not developers, a lot of times we don't have the architectural framework and a frame of reference to know what questions do you ask to produce an app. And so this is one of those things that I did because I am producing apps that are going live. And this one here is going to be the 3rd. And this is how I make sure that I have the quality and the control. And we're producing apps that can hold up in public. So that's that. I hope you guys enjoy this. I will give you the 9 questions. You can download them. I will give you a sample audit So simply you can just take that and look at it. And this is part of, if you looked at if you looked at the 5 file method, this is part of that. When I get ready to do a prototype, I do the 5 file method. One of those files is scalability and resolutions. This audit plus scalability is going to give you a real clear understanding of what it's going to take for you to grow that app. So go back and look at the 5 file method video, take this audit, and between the two of those, I believe you will then have enough to know if your app is ready to go live. All right, that's it for me, and I am out.